research speakers served as columnist, news reporter, and feature writer for the Philippines from October 1997 to July 2010. He also worked as a news reporter for TV5 from September 2006 to February 2007.
In addition, our guest speaker also served as the officer in charge for special media projects for the Eagle Broadcasting Corporation from December 2013 to January 2019. He was also a college faculty in English and journalism at New Era University from October 2010 to January 2019.
Currently, he is a host, producer, and writer for Radyo Pilipinas DZRB and our marketing and corporate communications executive at the Chinese General Hospital and the Medical Center. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give Brother Matthew Estabilio a virtual round of applause.
Good afternoon to everybody. I'm here to actually try to impart some of my knowledge and experience in writing. As the MCs very flatteringly said, I have been involved with media for almost all my life. My father actually is he? Yeah, he's the current publisher and president of Manila Standard. And as you all know, no, you don't know. I actually had my first experience in newspaper writing when I was only 13. But now that I'm way up there in age, maybe I can instill some of my know-how to the youngsters that are with us today. Now, these 10 points are simple suggestions and rules at the same time on how you can make the most out of your writing. Especially for young writers nowadays, you have a lot of information in your hands when it comes to online info, but we must be intricate in being able to disparage some of the unnecessary details we see online, because not everything you read is true. So, number one, first and foremost, whether you're writing a featured news article, an essay based on your life, a fictionalized story, a movie script, or anything in between, number one, it's very important to know your readers, who they are and what would interest them. Okay, as you know, the first question to ask is, who am I writing this for? This is your intended audience. In other words, you need to know the ones you're aiming to reach with your writing. This might be an individual. In the case of a love letter or email, I'm sure most of you can relate to that. However, with a script, a feature article, or even a news report, it might be for one or more groups. Now, you need to try to identify all the groups that you want to attract with your copy in as much detail as possible. What does this mean? Well, in terms of your audience, you need to know who they are, and you have to write what you know. In short, you have to know about the subject first of all before you can impart it to the ones who are going to read it. I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Your next step, of course, is to find out more about your audience and your readers. In particular, you want to know why they might find your writing useful or entertaining or interesting. What are they looking for from you? Now, for example, do they want info or entertainment? Or if they wanted to combine more of like infotainment? This part is where you need to master the important details of the subject you're writing about. And be able to impart and showcase what you want to say without sounding too complicated and too simple at the same time. I know it sounds a bit muddled, but with practice, I'm sure you'll get used to it. Okay, let's go to writing for your audience. This is still number one. The real importance of knowing your audience is that you can adapt your writing to suit a particular group. Now, this has two elements. being number one, being able to address their thoughts and making sure they can relate to what they're reading. Very important thing here, because if you're going to discuss astrophysics to an audience who are there to read about the sport of boxing, I don't think it's going to work out, no matter how talented a writer you are. Number two is writing in an appropriate design or custom style. Now, see here, this can be stressed in a lot of ways, because you need to know as a writer how you're going to adjust or adapt your essay to the ones who are going to be seeing it. Do not assume that they already know what you're trying to write about or they know what you're talking about. That's up to you to give them the information they need for them to be able to be more interested in the write-up you just produced. Now, don't worry, if I may sound a little complicated here, you can write down your questions and give it to me after the 10-point lecture is over. Yes? Okay. Let's go to number 2. Think about the start. This is the hardest part, actually. Okay. The first few sentences or paragraphs of your article are usually the most difficult, especially for a budding writer. It requires practice and both an intricate and broad mastery of your subject. Putting pen to paper and writing the first couple of lines usually is the most challenging because you don't know where you're going to start, right? This is the time when talented people like yourselves who possibly lack confidence or experience start to doubt their capabilities. Fight through that notion, because before long, writer's block can set in. And once that sets in, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing, absolutely nothing you can do about it except wait for it to pass. Writer's block is the adversary of any writer, as some of you may know. It's a true thing. Some said that, no, that's just fiction. Writer's block doesn't exist. It does, actually. Well, at least in my humble opinion, because no matter how good you are or how talented you are or how well you know the subject you're writing about, sometimes there comes a point where you are absolutely blank. It's not necessarily because of you have low IQ or you're dumb. No. Actually, because sometimes you have too much info in your hands or you have too much knowledge that all these very details, minutia, come crashing down and you don't know what to put in first. When that happens, when that sets in, let's go to number 3. Think about the conclusion. The end starts at the beginning. And so-called bookends, which I'll explain later, can be your best buddy at the most opportune time. Now, some people I know in the newspaper industry and some of my writer friends actually start from the end when they write something, especially when they're writing a story, particularly if it's fiction. If it's nonfiction and it's about your life, I'm sure you can do it with more flow. Doesn't matter where you start on. But with fiction writing or doing a script for a movie or TV, some of the best in their craft tend to write backwards. Why? Because it gives them a sense of control in a way that they are writing the article instead of the article writing them. Does that sound silly? No, it doesn't. Again, not to me. It gives you restraint. When you start at the beginning of something, like Once upon a time, in a castle far, far away from here, lived a beautiful and lovely princess who was being imprisoned by a dragon. Okay, when you start that way and you start cascading down to the conclusion, it gives you freedom. Too much freedom is a bad thing when it comes to writing, because you can go shift through different paths of where the adventure takes you. And again, this is where the article writes you, and not that you're writing the article. Let me try to explain it more simply. Here it is. Once you already know the ending, you already have a roadmap of how to get there, how to get to the finish line, your destination. That means you have more restraint in in not going this way or that. You just go one way, one path towards your write-up, towards your story, and it won't be muddled. And it'll have less editing when you rewrite, which, by the way, is a very, very important aspect of fiction writing. Yes? Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, there's still more. Bookends. What are bookends? Bookends are the beginning and the end. Just like the books behind me, they have bookends where they tend to guide each other so they don't fall apart. That's the same goes with your story, with your write-up, with your article. Okay, here's an example of a bookend. Let's say you have a story about a mysterious visitor, an alien of some sort who arrives in a UFO from outer space, lands here on Earth, gets involved with people's lives, helps them out, maybe falls in love, who knows. And in the end, he has to go back to his own planet. And where does it end? He leaves in the same UFO back to outer space. You know, this type of style in conclusion in the beginning, it gives closure and it helps with a disjointed story or article. In other words, if you feel that your story or your write-up or your script lacks a certain focus, maybe bookends can be your lifeline to give it more of a straight and narrow area so that it can be more focused. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm talking about. This is an example of number 4, which is visual imagery is definitely important, but do not overdo it. What does this mean? Okay, now for those of you advanced writers, who I'm sure many of you are, and much, much better than me when I was at your age, similes and metaphors are kind of elementary to you now. But it actually is an important part of writing. Like this, blind as a bat, busy as a bee, her eyes gleamed like pearls. I mean, these 3 things are like so used. Gas-gas na siya, kumbaga sa Philippines. And stop trying to beat a dead horse with it. You can come up with something creative, something new. This is where your talent and your experience in life brings forth what needs to be said in terms of visual imagery. You are painting with words here, boys and girls. So don't go too far with it. Yes, like any good thing, going too far with metaphor and simile, if you're paying attention to your own writing, try to avoid certain metaphors that are old and very used up, overused, and come up with suitable replacements. Here are examples of cliched stuff. Big as a house, hard as nails, tough as nails, good as gold, hungry as a horse. Yes, we've all seen these terms before, I know. And while it says here in one of my points that don't use them, sometimes it does work with your write-up in some way. Because a cliche is a cliche for a reason. It fits so many gaps. So try to use them sparingly if unavoidable. But in the end, as long as your writing is very strong, it doesn't really matter. Just be sparse with it. Magtipid po sa metaphors and similes. Okay? Be frugal. Okay, number 5. Use short sentences. Okay? Occasionally. It gives breathing space for the reader and relive sentence structures. Particularly, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to news writing, short sentences are an important rule in journalism 101, because you're not writing a novel, or you're not trying to paint visual imagery. You're trying to paint verbs here. You're trying to make it an action-based story when it comes to news, just the facts. And that's why short sentences are imperative in this sense, because I believe newspapers or news websites, their stories, it was designed or customized so people who are either college graduates or masters or those who have attained higher education, or those who finished just the 3rd grade in elementary, either one of them will be able to understand the news story. And that's why these short, simple sentences is best when it comes to your run-of-the-mill news story. All right. Some 4 benefits of writing short sentences. Sentences, as you know, are the basic building block of literature. Yes, of course they are. A writer carefully crafts every sentence to convey an idea or express a thought. Number 5, 4 benefits of writing short sentences. Number 1, short sentences provide a direct path to your main point. They always do, don't they? The shortest path between 2 objects, obviously, is a straight line. Think of that axiom when you're writing. A verbose sentence will distract readers. Unless that is your intention, don't do it, okay? It'll bury your main point under unnecessary words. A good example here is if you're trying to say I love you to your boyfriend or girlfriend, your wife, your husband, whoever it is. Just say it. Stop beating around the bush. It's the birds are singing, and I got this really cold, warm feeling in my heart that must be said, or I'm gonna explode. I guess if you're trying to convey a big romantic gesture, you can, but it's not my style. Okay, number 2, short sentences improve readability. Why do you think that is? Of course it does, because whether you're writing a novel, a short story, or a piece of academic writing, you can make it more accessible with short sentences. When sentences are short, the audience can easily understand your storyline. And when readers have to go over lines multiple times to grasp the concept, you run the risk of losing them altogether. Okay. In terms of sewing, I don't know if anybody of you here sews with a needle, but when I was younger, a teacher of mine from elementary, even boys were needed to do needlework. I don't know if that's still a thing today, but that teacher of mine taught me a good lesson in terms of writing. He said, doing a good stitch is like a good piece of writing. Do it bastingly and with no lumps in it. I think that's very appropriate to what short sentences, to how short sentences improve your articles, because it shortens the idea. Number one, yeah, you may need some flowery words here or there, but if you're trying to get to the point, get to the point. Okay, next one. Short sentences are more striking. That's why you see those large headlines in newspapers like, I don't know, Russia declares war with something, you know, or US Democrats keep control of the Senate. Short. That's why it's, you cannot have a long, elaborate headline to make an impact. It has to be short and crisp. It's very important for every writer, because as you learn to pare down your excess word usage and sculpt a sentence, believe me, your writing skills will improve. Now, there's some of you, this is not actually relegated to all types of write-ups, okay? This is more on a report or an office report, a news report, and a direct to the point memo. When it comes to writing creatively, it's quite different. You can have very long sentences, especially if some of you know this old writer named Jane Austen. If you read some of her books, her sentences tend to take 2 to 3 pages. That's just one sentence. Of course, that's how they wrote long ago. Not anymore. But it's still your style, you know. Remember, writing is up to you, how you create it, how you make it your own. But still, remember, you're not writing for you, you're writing for the reader. I think we'll come up to that as we go along. And finally, why are short sentences important? It's important because it prevents you from overthinking. Boys and girls, when you, as with the thing I said about writer's block a while ago, sometimes it has to do with overthinking. Because you have, even if you have too much mastery of the subject, or you already know that, I already know that stuff. If you have too much information in your head, sometimes you don't know where to begin. Here's a thought. Just write it simply. If you're going to write a story or anything else, just write and write. Don't worry about editing. You'll go back to it. Just write everything, everything that falls into your head. Even if it doesn't connect, even if you feel it's disjointed right away, doesn't matter. Once you get your thoughts, all your thoughts down on paper, you'll be able then to mix it up, or it'll be a puzzle, and you can, oh, I can put this here, I can put this in the end. The important thing is to put your ideas down where you can come back to it. Because if you just trust your memory and think, it's in my thoughts forever. No, it's not. And when you try to go back to it later, oh, what was that thing I thought about? Nah, it's gone forever. So yeah, put all the things you need to put down. Write it down. Number 6, show and don't tell. Writing is a craft. Make it rhythmic. Read your work aloud. It's up to the writer to determine what to tell and what to show. Remember what Chekhov, Anton Chekhov, one of the best writers there was, with this quote: "Don't tell me the moon is shining. Show me the glint of light on broken glass." Um, Ladies and gentlemen, this is the part where actual talent plays a role in your write-ups. You see, anybody can practice writing until their fingertips bleed and read the most helpful, innovative books to make them these wannabe writers great or something above the line. But unfortunately, there are some elements in great or good writing that cannot be taught. If you're great in it, if you have the flow without trying to think about it, good for you. In these cases, we need to learn to accept the limits of our skills, and just be the best writer we can be, the way God intended. Envy has no part in writing. He's a better writer than me. Dang it. Why didn't God give me that? What's the point of doing that? I know a lot of, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of my colleagues from work used to complain about other writers or other reporters being so much better than them. And to me, I was just thinking, hey, try the most, try the best that you can be, and I think that's the only way you can do it. No sense in trying to control what you cannot control. Again, this type of it, number 6, make it rhythmic with a flow. This is where your gift shines the most. Number 7, again, we touched on this subject a while ago. Avoid cliches at all costs and rewrite. Your first draft is not a masterpiece in writing. Throw it out. No matter how you think, even if sometimes you're so engrossed or believe ka sa sarili mo na, oh gosh, this is the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. And then the end. That's the first time you wrote it. It's not good enough. Try to stop, come back to it later on, and edit it. Rewrite. That's the secret, ladies and gentlemen, of a great writer. Rewrite, and read. I can't stress them enough because that's what I was taught when I was younger by older journalists. Okay, what are cliches? Obviously, stuff like this. Roses are red, violets are blue. If you use this as your opening line, you're writing screwed, and so are you. Stop with these things. It's been done to death. Oh gosh, I'd rather read a comic book from an old paper than use this one. Love is blind. Honesty is the best policy. Come on, you're so much better than this. I've seen time and again during my many years of teaching in New Era University, these very wonderful and talented young writers who would somehow fall into the trap of putting in enormous amounts of cliched lines. It's like, please stop it. Create your own. I'm sure there's a reason why I'm teaching here. Why I think you're a good writer is because I know you don't have to use a cliche to be able to be good. Yes? Okay. You don't have to resort to it a lot. Sometimes just a tiny bit, it'll help. But it's cliche for a reason. Number 8, this is the most important thing my father taught me when I was younger. Inspiration, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, is for amateurs. Okay, it should take up no more than 10% of your creative output. Actually, it should be 5 or 1% at the most. It's all about hard work. Trust me on this one. Here's a quote by the renowned painter, I think, Chuck Close. Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. If you wait around for the clouds to part and a bolt of lightning to strike you in the brain, you are not going to make an awful lot of work. All the best ideas come out of the process. They come out of the work itself. Okay? Should be 5% inspiration and 95% hard work. That should be 95. But you get the point here, you know. For young people such as yourselves, I guess inspiration can still be a good thing. But during my first year on the job as a newspaper writer, as a news writer, there was a time when I said, I can't write this, I'm not inspired enough. And my boss, I was like around 19 then, just started yelling at me and shouting all these cuss words that I can never repeat to another living soul. And he said that inspiration is all well and good, but it's not the epitome of your hard work, of the overall product. Hard work is. Trust me. It's good to be inspired. Don't get me wrong. Promise you, it's good to be inspired. It's good to have a muse. It's good to have a loved one beside you when you're writing, and you think that she or he can help. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, writing is all about you. It's all coming from you. So what happens if you're not inspired? You just give up? No, you can't give up. So try to work around it. I know it's going to be tough, but so again, some of you, I'll go back to number 7. Rewrite, and read. Okay? Number 9, I'll try to hurry up because I think we're losing time here. Entertain and engage the reader, not yourself. Writing exclusively for your pleasure should be restricted to your personal diaries, okay? Or your Facebook posts or your Instagram thingies. Know that your article or story is always for the reader. Try to see how the reader would react to your words, the ones you've written for him or her, and learn if it is engaging enough. How do you do that? Now, your parents can't help you with this, unfortunately, because no matter how bad your writing is, mom and dad will always say, "Oh, anak, you've done a fantastic job. Oh, this is a masterpiece." It's not a masterpiece, and they're lying to you. Because what? Because they love you. And neither will your boyfriend or girlfriend, unless, of course, you promise them that, okay, promise not to get mad if I tell you the truth. But it would be better if you just let an acquaintance who knows his stuff, i.e. your teacher or a stranger, read your stuff so you can be able to gauge its potential. Pag sa mga malakas na sa buhay, or those who know us well, or those who think that we're very sensitive to some things, they tend to be biased and watch out for your feelings. And that's the worst thing you can have if you want to gauge or to test out your article in the first place, okay? And finally, last but not the least, grammar. This is the best tool in writing. No, it's like what a chef is to the finest kitchen knife. Get to know it. Mastering your nouns, pronouns, and not the woke kinds, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, conjunctions, prepositions, and punctuation is the most fundamental of these 10 points. If you don't know your grammar well, you cannot write well. Trust me on this one. I learned it the hard way when I thought that, I can talk well. When I was a kid, I thought so. That means I can write well. It doesn't work like that. You need to learn to walk before you can run and know the rules. A lot of you here are going to be really great writers, or I think some of you already are. But how do you get there? Or how did you get there? To be able to shatter, I guess, the glass ceiling when it comes to writing, you need to know the rules first, and then you can break them. So I don't usually promote books, but for those of you who want to really improve your grammar, I read this book when I was a kid. This was by Strunk and White, called The Elements of Style. This is the most important handbook that you can have. It's just a short thing. And a lot of my students, I promise you, my former students were able to improve their writing skills just because of this really tiny book. It's like 80 pages, but it gives you everything you need to know in terms of grammar. So yeah, that's the last point I have here when it comes to some of my suggestions when it comes to writing. And that's it. Thanks everybody for listening.